My second trip with Peter, a sort of quickie, a one-day affair, was to Worms and Heidelberg, and then back again to the Munch House. And from there, I took the cross-country tram from Bad Homburg back to my basement apartment in North Frankfurt on the Klaus-Roth-Straße, parallel to the Eschenheimer Landstraße, at the Fritz-Reuter-Straße. There were four of us, Peter, his mother Ilse, and me, and an unknown. Even some years later, Peter couldn't recall his name. At any event, he was never seen or heard of again. We wriggled into Worms on the Neckar. Like all Catholic churches, the dome dominates the city. Why? Because from the beginning of Christianity, it represents the true and central presence of Christ in the community. It is the center of life in all its forms: religious, economic, political, art, medicine, hospital, and learning. As was the norm at that time, a Benedictine monastery was attached. It's huge. The main sections are Romanesque with Gothic additions. It's 110 meters long, 27 meters wide, the nave is 27 meters high, and the dome 40 meters on the inside. This is one of my 1952 black and whites. The first church was started back in 1105, and this final version was completed in the 14th century. It's not just huge, it's solidly Germanic, as is its faith of old. Judging by the many openings in the tower staircase, it certainly could have been used as the ultimate fortress in defense of the city. This dome is one of the three great imperial cathedrals of Mainz, Speyer, and Worms. Like all Catholic cathedrals, still dominates the city skyline, though today it's an evangelical church. Even then, I fear, not much in use, nor well attended. As you can see, it's very plain and stark. First, because it was badly damaged and restored many times over the years, but there's no tabernacle either. In the St. Nicholas Chapel, there is a newish triptych of Our Lady and St. Nicholas on the left. I'm not sure who's on the right. All the original stained glass was destroyed over the years. It's been replaced by modern versions. This one, still in the St. Nicholas Chapel, starting at the bottom, is the Madonna and Christ Child. Up from there, the Crucifixion, and again up from there, the Holy Spirit, and finally God the Father at the top. Not far from the triptych in the chapel is a modern baptismal font. Good grief! You could drown in it. Since there were four of us on this trip, Peter didn't give the usual detailed description of the Dome of Worms. So I'll have to fill in and do the best I can. Here goes. Franz Ludwig von Pfalz-Neuburg was the Archbishop of several dioceses and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire. He was also the Hochmeister of the Teutonic Order and left enough money for a high altar. His successor, Prince Bishop Georg von Schönborn, asked his brother Friedrich, Bishop of Würzburg, to provide a builder, in this case Balthasar Neumann, who had built the Neue Residenz of Würzburg. He completed the project. According to Peter, the Munches are related to the Schönborns. How, he never told me. To which part of this wealthy family, lords of Schönborn, barons, and counts, there was no account. Just down the road a piece from Worms is Heidelberg on the Neckar. How old is it? Well, the Heidelberg man, the oldest human in European history, discovered in 1907, lived hereabouts from 600,000 to 200,000 years ago. The Celts had a fortress in the 5th century BC, then the Romans came, and finally the Germanic tribes. Christianity got a firm foothold in this area by 863 AD. The date of the city's founding is taken from the first mention of it in a document in the Schöna Abbey in 1196. There are 3 statues of the bridge. The one nearest Old Town is that of Prince Elector Karl Theodor, its builder, in 1788. Since he was a lover of the arts, the other is of Minerva, goddess of wisdom. The last is of a small brass monkey. The original goes back to the latest, the 17th century. It's a mandrill, holding a mirror in one hand, the other in the form that wards off the evil eye. It's a reminder to the Old Town residents that they are no better than those that live outside the town. The bridge tower dates back to the medieval days and was part of the town wall. It was in 1225 that Louis I of Bavaria acquired the Palatinate. By the Golden Bull in 1336, they were granted the right of Elector of the Holy Roman Empire. The Old Town Church of the Holy Spirit was rebuilt in 1709 after it was set fire by the French in the War of the Palatinate Succession. It had been used simultaneously by the Catholics and Protestants. This was accomplished by a wall separating the two faiths. This tradition ceased in 1936, and it is now just Lutheran. Looking down from the castle, the jam-packed Old Town, the Holy Spirit Church, the tallest, most important building, sits on the Marktplatz, the town center. Market Day in the town center. Elector Frederick III, 1559 to 1576, commissioned the new Heidelberg Catechism. He wrote the preface and closely oversaw its composition and publication. This was at the time of the Council of Trent and the Peace of Augsburg, granting religious tolerance of Protestants within the Holy Roman Empire. One of the aims of the Catechism was to counteract the teachings of the Catholic Church, particularly in regard to the Eucharist. Directly across from the church, on the other side of the marketplace, is the town hall. Heidelberg changed hands a number of times in its existence. For instance, in 1619, Elector Frederick V, the Winter King, just for a year before the Habsburg took it again by force. In 1621, it was the start of the 30 Years' War. The Catholic League under Count Tilly recaptured it. The Catholic branch of the Wittelsbach got it back again with the title in 1648. It's time for a coffee break with a large slice of Holländische Kirschtorte mit Schlagsahne or several slices of Schweineöhrchen, but not a history break. In 1689, in the War of the Grand Alliance, the French captured and destroyed nearly everything by 1693. This was made worse by the repeated French invasions related to the War of the Palatinate Succession and severe winters. Here's what's left of the Schloss. It was a fortress and a palace, therefore a hodgepodge of architectural styles, sadly now mostly in ruins. The inner courtyard, this so-called English building, was constructed by Elector Frederick in 1613-1619. Sort of a bit of a nothing building, at least to me. Ein Spaziergang durch den alten Stadt gives you great opportunities to see the Ritter St. Georg Hotel, built in 1592, and to visit quaint restaurants and student pubs. More about the university a little later on. There have been many electors of the Palatinate, but this one, Johann Wilhelm, stands head and shoulders above all others. Born April 19th, 1659, he married Archduchess Maria Anna of Austria in 1678. She popped off in 1689. He became elector on the death of his father, September 2nd, 1690. And then, wait for it, here she is, Anna Maria Luisa de Medici. After much court intrigue, married Johann Wilhelm by proxy, 29th of April in 1691. Off she went to Dusseldorf, where Johann Wilhelm was living, together with her brother Gian Gastone. Wilhelm surprised her by meeting them at Innsbruck. There they were finally married properly. There was no issue, only a miscarriage and syphilis, though their marriage was a happy one. She turned their court into a center of arts and music. The electress arranged a marriage for her brother to Anna Maria Franziska Saxe-Lauenberg. She repulsed him, and he became repulsive. After Wilhelm died in 1716, the electress returned to Firenze, and upon Gian Gaston's death, became the Grand Duchess and the last of the Medici to rule Tuscany. But why all this palaver? Well, because it was she that before her death signed the most notable act, the Patto di Famiglia, the family pact signed 31st of October 1737, in collaboration with the Holy Roman Emperor and Francis of Lorraine. She willed all personal property of the Medici and that of the Palatinate to the state of Tuscany, provided that nothing was ever removed from Firenze. That's why you can still see all that beautiful stuff in Florence. Now for the dark side of recent history. Under the Nazis, by 1939, half of the teaching staff was gone, either because they were Jewish or for political reasons. During the Kristallnacht of November 1938, 2 synagogues were torched. The next day, 150 Jews were sent to Dachau. October 22, 1940, Nazis deported 6,000 local Jews, of which 281 were from Heidelberg, to Camp Gurs in France. Within a few months, 1,000 were dead from hunger and disease. In 1942, those that had survived were shipped to Eastern Europe and were murdered. The University Ruprecht Karls in Heidelberg was founded in 1386. It offers undergraduate, graduate, PhD in 100 different disciplines. It's had 31 Nobel Prize laureates, about 1,000 PhDs complete every year. 20% of the university student body is from 130 foreign countries. It is internationally known for its schools of medicine, science, and law. Historically, as the capital of the Elector of the Palatinate, the university throughout the ages has had its ups and downs. As the result of the 30 Years' War, the university's wealth and importance declined. In 1622, the whole of the library was stolen and shipped to Rome. By 1692, King Louis XIV destroyed the city, and the university virtually stopped functioning. The Jesuits in 1735 got things going again till 1773, and then down it went again till 1789. In the French Revolution, it was expected to be dissolved. In 1803, Karl Friedrich, Grand Duke of Baden, re-established the university and made himself rector. Romanticism was the order of the day, from 1800 to at least 1850. Liberalism, European style, took over during the mid-1800s, emphasizing German national unity. Heidelberg University was the hotbed of very liberal, open-minded spirit fostered by Max Weber, Ernst Trost, and others. They all emphasized Protestant work ethics as the foundation for capitalism. Since there was no damage to Heidelberg after World War II, the university fired up right away. In Old Town, you can see the College of the Humanities. So walking around Altstadt, it allows you to see the university in action every day. The new campus is out of town, but an easy commute by bus or tram in about 10 minutes. It has the medical and science hubs, together with research facilities and 4 hospitals. These are some of the dormitories for the whole university, located in the new campus area of town. In an inner city suburb is the Bergheim campus. It houses the Institutes of Economics, Political Science, and Sociology. We have yet to talk about the Kaserne. This is what it was once. The Wehrmacht Großes Deutschland Kaserne, turned into the U.S. Armed Forces Headquarters Europe, now called the Campbell Barracks. The reason Heidelberg was chosen is because it had been spared bombing in World War II, leaving the barracks intact. This is the Patton Barracks in nearby Kirchheim. The Nachrichtenkaserne is in Rohrbach and was designated Heidelberg Army Hospital, now the Heidelberg Health Center. The Sullivan and Funeri Barracks, located more towards Mannheim, were both part of this enormous military complex. In 2009, plans were made to build another huge complex in Wiesbaden and move everything there by 2015. This is the passing out parade as the last troops leave. As a result, all the buildings were turned over to the German state for civilian use. So, Heidi, Peter, Brigitte, Albrecht, and Sibylle, this was a longer journey than it was in reality. Yet there's so much history in this one area that I've only just touched upon it. The next parts of this video are from the times Peter and I spent together from 2000 to 2006. I'd like to think that doing this travelogue is my way of saying how much Peter meant to me and my understanding of European history, culture, arts, his family, and the German people. It seems like only yesterday. With a leap of imagination and sitting in a time machine, we're now in 2006 and on our way from Heidelberg to Speyer. I'm hovering over the Imperial Dome and Basilica of the Assumption and St. Stephan. I'm slowly drifting past the 4 spires, cupolas, and domes. If you've been to Worms and Mainz, you'll know how grand they are. This one is even bigger and grander, a Romanesque dome. It was started in 1030 under Conrad II. It's the largest and most significant Romanesque church of its kind in Europe and symbol of imperial power. It's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This 134-meter-long, 3-aisled cavern can only be fully appreciated except with Benedictine Gregorian chant. This neo-Romanesque facade was added in 1854 to 58. Remember, the dome could be seen for miles around in the center of a village of 500 people. So what was the dome? It was a challenge by the emperor to Pope Gregory VII in the investiture controversy, the right of the king to invest bishops and abbots. It started with Conrad II and only ended with the Concordat of Worms in 1128 with Pope Callistus and Emperor Henry V. Starting with the Holy Roman Emperor Conrad II, 8 emperors, some uncrowned, are buried here. The town and dome survived the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648. This 1854 neo-Renaissance front door gives you the idea of the immenseness of the dome. The dome did suffer severe damage in the War of the Palatinate Succession, 1688 to 97. Again in 1792 by the French Revolution, and finally the Napoleonic Wars of 1803-1815. The major reconstruction occurred in 1748-72 by Franz Neumann, son of the famous Balthasar Neumann. Wow! That's all I can say, just wow. This is magnificent. The eye follows to the high altar. Now just look at the nave from the raised sanctuary and the choir. It's just as magnificent, just as awe-inspiring. At the Congress of Wien in 1815, the Palatinate, including Speyer, passed to Bavaria. King Ludwig I got Johann von Schauadal and Joseph Schwartzman to decorate the walls with Nazarene-type frescoes, 1846 to 53. The king thought the frescoes were absolutely great. These first two, the first one is Adam and Eve being banished from Eden by an angel, and the other, the sacrifice of Isaac. The only one that I can make out here is the nearest one, that is Moses and the burning bush. Here is the marriage of Mary and Joseph, while the second, Mary greeting Elizabeth while she was pregnant with John the Baptist. I love these frescoes, but sadly they've been removed. But you can see them in the Dom Kaisersaal. Now let's dash into the crypt. This is the largest crypt in Europe, measuring a little over 9,000 square feet or 850 square meters, and approximately 7 meters high or 22 feet. It's a monster, as you can see. It has 42 groined vaults supported by 20 columns. There's a harmony between the Yellowstone and rust sandstone blocks. And on that musical note, we are spent in Speyer and we're off to Amorbach. It's like a bit of a jaunt from Speyer to Amorbach, but it wanders through some lovely countryside and through small villages. Just a quick flashback to 1952 on one of our long weekend trips, pausing near Amorbach. German mediatization 1803-1806. Like the profusion of Italian city-states, the Holy Roman Empire was a patchwork of kingdoms, principalities, prince-bishoprics, prince-abbots, prince-abbesses, imperial knights, counts, bidi-boo, amounting to over 400. Mediatization was the swallowing up of smaller states by bigger ones. At the same time, secularization took place as if it were on a separate track. The bloody French Revolution and the war between France and Prussia of 1792 led the French to occupy the left bank of the Rhine. Mediatization was on full blast. The French secularized the church properties on the left bank, while those secularized rulers were given secularized church properties on the right bank. To really understand this gobbledygook, look at the overlay of all the prince-bishoprics on top of these secular rulers. This was the result of the Holy Roman Empire investing in bishops and abbots and abbesses that then expanded their rights, having become imperial princes subject only to the emperor. Thus, the faithless French and German rulers wanted them, and the Catholic Church was broken. It was done. The Counts of Leiningen go back to at least 1138, though the main male line died out in 1220. The sister, Lutigarda, of the last male, married Simon II, Count of Saarbrücken. He inherited the land and arbitrarily took their arms and name. As you can see from the family tree, there are multiple branches, but only one of them became imperial princes. Here he is, the first imperial prince, Karl Friedrich Wilhelm. How he got to be one, no one knows. He probably had to suck up to the emperor. Most of their lands were on the left bank of the Rhine, so he probably had to suck up to the French. He got the Benedictine Abbey and properties of Amorbach and Protestantized them. The current prince, Karl Emich, converted from Lutheranism to Eastern Orthodox in order to claim the Russian throne. He did this through his Russian ancestors, Grand Duchess Maria Kilnova and Alexander II. The Abbey Church, 1250, is the oldest Benedictine church east of the Rhine. The first abbot founded it and lent his name to the town. The picture has the abbey in the foreground, St. Benedict on the far right, and next to him, St. Amor, and next to him is Abbot Amor. The abbey was established here in 734. By 800, it had become a Reichsabtei in the Diocese of Würzburg. though eventually it was shifted to the bishopric of Mainz. Like many other churches and abbeys, it was damaged in 1525, the Peasants' War, 1632 by the Swedes in the 30 Years' War, and after it had passed to Mainz, additional building was started. In the 1740s, it was converted to a Baroque style by Maximilian von Welsch. Now that's a pulpit, and you thought Baroque was ornate. Well, where does Baroque become Rococo? I don't know. So Peter and I agreed to call it Barococo. It was built by Johann Wolfgang van der Auvera, a Dutchman. Holy cow, it's a monster! A Strom organ, installed between 1776 and 82 by Johann Philipp and Johann Heinrich Strom. At the time, the biggest organ in the world, with a facade of 124 pipes, some 7 meters tall. It has a total of 5,116 pipes, 30 percussion devices across 66 stops, with 4 manuals and a pedal board. As you might have guessed, being educated by the English Benedictines, I get enthused where we've made our mark. St. Benedict is the focus of attention of these frescoes by Matthäus Günther. What a beautiful sanctuary screen. It's interesting to note that Marx Gattinger of Würzburg did it in the same way as he did the gates of the Neue Residenz Würzburg. The design is on both sides. The high altar is marble all around. It is dominated by a large tabernacle surrounded by 6 large marble columns and 2 statues, one of Joachim and one of Anna, the parents of Mary. Above that, the prince's coat of arms, and then above that, the representations of the Trinity. Right above the tabernacle is the Matthäus Günther painting of Our Lady's arrival in heaven. Some big monastery directly attached to the new Evangelisches Kirche. All of this and more belong to the prince. This is the Green Hall in neoclassical style. It's used as a concert hall. But prior to that, what did the monks use it for? Look at this parquet flooring. It was laid so as to give a 3D effect. That's fantastic. Ah, Graf von der Dingsbums himself in person with our guide. Peter is gazing at the ceiling. Well, what's up there? The fresco is by Konrad Huber, 1798. Shows allegories of wisdom, virtue, and science. Who is this? Nobody done told me. Peter's pondering what the monks would have used this space for, surrounded by a big library of books from both the abbey and the princes. Maybe a scriptorium, or at least a place for study. Now it's off on our final stop to Dome Mainz. This is the last leg of the trip, and it's to Mainz and its Kaiserdome. I'm going to try to do the other 2 trips. One was with Peter, Micheline de Leerval, and my girlfriend Berit Nielsen to Miltenberg, Bamberg, Schloss Banz-14 Kulmbach, Bayreuth, and Schloss Weissenstein. And the second one was just a winter trip, a short one with Peter and I, to the Starnberger See, Kirchen der Wies, Lindenhof, Oberammergau, München, and again Schloss Weissenstein. Like all other major European churches, they're in the center of the town because Christ should be the center of our lives. Though it's a few meters smaller than Dom Speyer, it sprouts 4 spires and 2 humongous towers. It's massive. Now try and get a parking spot next to it. It's mainly a pedestrian area. Though it started off Romanesque in 976, under the direction of St. Vulgus, Archbishop of Mainz, it progressed at least to the back to a very ornate Romanesque with faux colonnades. At the rear of the dome, you can notice the late Romanesque, look at the faux colonnades at 3 levels, the lower dome, the roof, and finally the tower. This is a very large space with not only a dome, but also a cloister and monastery. You've got a triple-aisled nave, and at the western end an elevated chancel dedicated to that Roman-Hungarian St. Martin of Tours. And at the western end, a smaller but elevated chancel with a baldachin dedicated to St. Stephen. This is a close-up of the main chancel, the western one. The reason for the 2 chancels is not really known, but St. Villius designed a double chancel based on the basilicas of Rome. The Dome Mainz bears a sterling resemblance to the old St. Peter's. At the back of the main altar are the carved Rococo choir stalls, 1767, installed by Napoleon. It was Bishop Joseph Ludwig Colmar who saved the stalls from being sold off and convinced Napoleon not to demolish the dome after the secularization of 1803. The Gothic pulpit, with its intricate stonework, seems to fit right in. We didn't have time to scrutinize the 19th century wall paintings for their contents, and nowhere on the internet were these stories to be found. I could only determine they were done by Philip Veit. In one of the side chapels, the Kettler Chapel has as its reredos a triptych, an altar to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The left panel, the birth of Christ, the right, the visit of the 3 Magi. In the center, with a bishop on either side, is the Madonna with the Christ child, known locally as the Beautiful Lady of Mainz. This is a 6-manual monster organ that controls another much older organ as well. On one of Dome Mainz's side walls, one of the many grave remembrances, this one of Archbishop and Prince Elector, it looks like Daniel Brendel from Hamburg, a town north of Fulda and south of Kassel. At any event, a big wheel. I don't know too many double-decked cloisters, but here's one at least. My guess is that in the middle there used to be a medicinal herbal garden for either the monks or a nearby hospital or hospice. When we were there, this whole area was covered in booths, as it was a feria, and it was jam-packed with nary a parking spot to be found. We had to come back the next day to find a spot and to go through the cathedral. This is a little bit of the old town of Mainz, but we've come to the end of sequence 5, and there are 4 more to go. So I'll try and get them done by year's